We have had countless debates here at the debate circle involving climate change. And today's interesting conversation, or rather debate, is focusing on the angle of fossil fuels and renewable energy. Debating this motion today is Jamhuri High School versus Apostolic Carmel. And their motion reads, governments should prioritize investment in renewable energy over fossil fuels to combat climate change. I repeat the motion again. Governments should prioritize investment in renewable energy over fossil fuels to combat climate change. First speaker, team proposition, you have 3 minutes.
The world won't wait for us to fix it. It needs rebels, revolutionaries, and renegades who dare to challenge the status quo and save it from the brink of destruction. Now, my name is Kibet Onyango from Jamhuri High School, here to propose on the motion that states governments should prioritize investments in renewable energy over fossil fuels to combat climate change. Let's get on to the basic terms. Renewable energy. This refers to the energy generated from sources that are naturally replenished and have a minimal impact on the environment. These are solar energy, wind energy, and water energy. And hydropower, Fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are natural resources formed from the remains of ancient plants and animals, organisms that lived millions of years ago. Examples are oil and natural gas. Now, what is climate change? You see, climate change refers to the long-term alterations in the Earth's climate system, including temperature, precipitation patterns, wind patterns, and other aspects resulting from human activities and natural processes. Now, one must wonder, why should the governments invest in renewable sources? Well, leading to my first point, and it leads to environmental impact and emissions reductions. Now you see, renewable energy sources produces significantly less greenhouse gases emissions compared to the fossil fuels. When we prioritize investments in renewable, it will lead to a substantial reduction in CO2 emissions, mitigating the effects of global warming, climate change, and improving the air quality. Now, according to the International Renewable Energy Agency, IREA, renewable energy accounted for around 26% of global electricity generation in 2018, resulting in an estimated 2.5 gigatons of CO2 emissions avoided. Now, for example, Denmark has made significant strides in renewable energy adoption, with wind power accounted for around 47% of Denmark's electricity consumption, resulting in a 26% reduction in CO2 emissions compared to 1990 levels. Now, renewable energy sources such as solar, wind produces 0 to significantly less greenhouse gas emissions compared to fossil fuels. For instance, photovoltaic systems do not emit any greenhouse gases during operation, and wind turbines produce no emissions during electricity generations. Now we need to know which countries have implemented renewable energy. This is Denmark. Denmark is known for its successful deployment of wind energy. In 2020, actually, wind power accounted over 50% of Denmark's electricity consumption, and the country has set actually ambitious targets to further increase the share of renewable energy in its energy mix. According to IKEA, the renewable energy sector has employed around 11 million people globally in 2018, representing an increase of 700,000 jobs compared to previous year. So now we know, actually, renewable energy, when the government invests in them, it will lead to a job creation and an economic growth, which my second speaker will explain more. And with that, I rest my case by saying, let us invest in renewable energy, because it will lead to what? It will lead to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, create economic opportunities, and pave the way for a brighter and more sustainable future. It is in our hands, and we need to save the future.
Team opposition, first speaker, you have 3 minutes.
We are the first generation to feel the impact of climate change, and the last generation that can do something about it. A quote by Barack Obama. First of all, my amazing name is Sherry Gitiri Washira from the great Apostolic Carmel Girls Secondary School. From the opposition side of today's motion, governments should prioritize investments in renewable energy to combat over fossil fuels to combat climate change. So I would first like to start with definition of terms. What is a fossil fuel? A fossil fuel is a fuel such as coal or oil that was formed over millions of years from the remains of animals or plants. What is an investment? To spend money on something in order to make it better or more successful. Combat, to stop something unpleasant from happening or getting worse. So, as Kenyans, of course, when we get the opportunity to exploit something, we will do it to the fullest, right? So this leads me to pose a question to you. If the government does invest in renewable energy over fossil fuels to combat climate change, we will resort to sources like forests, charcoal, wind, and solar energy, right? Yes. Most percentage of Kenyans use charcoal and forests. And as we all know, as I said, Kenyans, we will exploit something to the fullest. If we do decide, for example, because charcoal is the most affordable and available energy currently, we will ever exploit these resources. We will ever exploit forests. And what will happen when we ever exploit these sources? Environmental degradation will occur. We will be expanding deserts and desiccation will occur. There will be deforestation. And I thought the motion was government should prioritize investment in renewable energy over fossil fuels to combat climate change. But in fact, overexploitation of natural resources leads to climate change and global warming. So, which makes me pop a bubble in my thinking tank. If we do invest in this renewable energy, are we increasing climate change or combating climate change? Thank you. I rest my case.
Team proposition. Second speaker, you have 3 minutes.
Starting in 3, 2, 1. 1 plus 1 minus a double solution is equals to none. 1, you have a problem, climate change. Plus 1, you still have more problems, combating climate change. Minus a double solution, renewable sources of energy, that problem is solved. Newton Boy here to propose the motion that states governments should prioritize investments in renewable energy over fossil fuels to combat climate change. Let's look at this. You see, as team proposition, we basically bring in the idea of the government prioritizing most of their revenue to renewable sources of energy, not to fossil fuels. Get me right. We're not saying that the government should not prioritize fossil fuels. Whatever we're saying is that the government should actually prioritize more on renewable sources of energy. And that is why I come with my first point as price reductions when you use renewable sources of energy. Now, you see, renewable sources of energy technologies have become increasingly cost competitive, with declining cost making them more affordable compared to fossil fuels. You don't believe me? Ask the insiders. They'll say the cost of solar photovoltaic, in brackets PV, modules have decreased by around 89% since 2010 to 2020. And the cost of onshore winds has dropped by 56% during the same period. And that is why we say when we use these renewable sources of energy in combating climate change, we will use less money. You see, ever heard of the saying that state's experience is the best teacher? Now, lovely audience, let us learn from experience here. Chile and India actually use renewable sources of energy to combat climate change, and they have achieved a record of low prices for solar and wind power through competitive actions. Now, lovely audience, what I mean is, do you want to combat climate change? Of course you do. But the thing is, do you want to use more money or do you want to use less money? Less money is the only appropriate option. Now, today being a Sunday, the sermon is quite easy, combating climate change. But the only problem remains, how do we implement renewable sources of energy, which Team Proposition is actually bringing to the table in order to combat climate change? It's this simple, lovely audience. Implementation can be done by progressively increase carbon prices, which can change the shift towards renewable energy. Now, the revenue generated can be used to fund the research, development, and deployment of renewable sources of energy. The point on reduction of prices is actually a mother to another point. And since I'm the father, allow me bring the child to the table. You see, technological advancements. She says that as Kenyans, when we have the opportunity to do something, we do it to the fullest. And that is why when we have the opportunity to combat climate change using renewable sources of energy, we will do exactly that. And through the research and all of this, we will get technological advancements. You see, as I stated earlier, when we use renewable sources of energy, more sources are allocated in research of these sources of efficiently improvement, in which leads to technological advancements. My time seems to be up. We will meet in the closing remarks. Thank you for your time.
Team Opposition, second speaker, you have 3 minutes.
I come here with a purpose, and my purpose is to stand for my people. I, Shalin Kandra, stand here to oppose the motion that states that the government should prioritize renewable energy over fossil fuels to combat climate change. Can we really survive without using fossil fuels? Can we? A good example is in fueling our cars. We use diesel and petrol. What are those? Fossil fuels. And you see that we have really highly depended on fossil fuels, that to a point we can't survive without them. The fossil fuels are also used in operating machineries. Tell me how a tractor will be operated by renewable energy. It needs a fossil fuel. Yeah, and you know, renewable energy, it's not reliable. Yes, the sun will shine. Yes, the wind will blow. But what if a day comes then the sun does not shine? Tell me, what will the solar panels use? What will they use? What if the wind does not blow? How are the wind turbines going to operate? How? And tell me, if we say that we want now to implement renewable energy, tell me how many years will it take this government to implement it? How many years? It will take us many, many years. Can you just tell me one SDG that has been implemented in Kenya today? Someone just tell me one. You see, it will take us many years to implement renewable energy. And you see, people will be forced to use renewable fossil fuels. And with that, I rest my case.
Team Proposition have been tasked with the question of affordability. How would they factor in the cost of implementation, given it is more costly to switch to renewable sources of energy as compared to fossil fuels? Team Opposition have been tasked to validate the negative effects of fossil fuels, since they claim that we're very dependent on the use of fossil fuels. Team Proposition, third speaker, you have 3 minutes.
Well. Praise God. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we are debating against Apostolic Carmels. They are debating against Apostolic Lions. Jamhuri High School. My name is William Benjamin, here to propose the motion that says government should prioritize investment in renewable energy over fossil fuels to combat climate change. You see, ladies and gentlemen, to understand the motion is a very important thing. You see, the motion says that we should prioritize renewable energy, not get rid of fossil fuels. That is what the motion says. They are stating that we should get rid of fossil fuels. That is not what we are saying, ladies and gentlemen. You see, coming on your way to St. Paul's University, you are using a bus. A bus uses petroleum, which is a fossil fuel. You see, you polluted the environment, you polluted the air, and that's why you have to apply sunburn lotions to our faces so that we may not be affected by the hot rays from the sun. Ladies and gentlemen, I will not want that. You see, public health is one of the points. Fossil fuel combustion releases harmful gases such as sulfur dioxide, which contributes in air pollution, and which is also the key cause of asthma. You see, ladies and gentlemen, chemistry is a booster subject just in this motion. Take my terms. You see, sulfur dioxide causes asthma. And research has it, the American Lung Association states that investing in and prioritizing in renewable energy will stop 3,000 premature deaths, will stop 3,000 heart attacks, will stop 12,000 asthma attacks. Ladies and gentlemen, I love my life. I'm not sure about you, but I wouldn't want to get an asthma attack. I'm not sure about you, but I wouldn't want to get a heart attack. I'm not sure about you, but I will not want to die. You see, my lovely, lovely opponents, I love you very much, very, very, very much. And that's why I don't want you to die. You see, ladies and gentlemen, according to International Energy Agency, IEA, it says that renewable energy sources accounted for 90% of new electricity capacity additions globally in 2020, helping to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by approximately 2 billion tons compared to use of fossils. Now, you tell me, is it easy to use fossil fuels, or is it easy to use things that do not cause harm? As I am finishing, you see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry I have to switch some main characters here, but judges, I think you'll make a good vicar, and I believe this is the part that you say, you may now kiss your bride, because as we are proposing the motion, they joined our proposal and say that fossil fuels causes damage. We will cut down trees to get these fossil fuels. That is what they meant. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I raised my case and they raised their case. Thank you.
Third speaker, team opposition, you have 3 minutes.
My back is tired from carrying the weight of something. Do you want to know what this something is? The truth. The truth is quite heavy, but for you, allow me to bear this bulk. My fellow opponents, we also love you, but love is quite expensive. For real, love is quite expensive. Also, to answer a question, sweetheart, you asked a question. I will answer your question in my point. So I would ask you to be a bit patient, okay? Yes. And hopefully my point will cut across the questions that you're willing to ask and the questions that you have just asked. Let's get to it. Fossil fuels are cheaper compared to renewable sources of energy. Poorer people will greatly be hurt as compared to the rich ones. This is because they will suffer welfare loss, and this will make their consumption basket even more expensive, according to an article published by the World Bank. So the thing is, this motion is trying to increase the gap between the rich and the poor, not giving credence to the SDG. Number 1, no poverty. SDG number 10, reduced inequality. What are we trying to do here? I am here to tell you I am on your side, fellow citizens. Don't let this motion entice you, because it is pure propaganda with nothing but hidden agendas. You want facts? Fine. You want them? I'll give them to you. Anything it takes so that you can open your eyes and see. According to Wikipedia, Kenya is a lower middle income economy. Although Kenya's economy is the largest in Eastern Africa, 16% of the population are below the poverty lane. Kenyans, wananchi, I'm speaking for the minority. I'm speaking for the disregarded and dominated by the most valued population, the rich. Can't you see what I'm trying to do here? I'm giving a voice to all those poor people out there. Join me. I'm giving a voice to you. Don't neglect this. Wakenya msilale, bado mapambano. I represent the people. I represent you. I represent me. Before I consider the pros and cons, do you know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about your future. Points have been said, statistics and facts will give it all away. What more do you want as not to be swayed? Swayed by the fact that when the government makes this a priority, we will suffer a great deal.
Team Proposition, you have 1 minute to give your closing remark.
Not sure if St. Paul's University actually offers science courses, but I came to St. Paul's University as a scholar, but I'm certainly not living a scholar. You want to know why? I'm living a scientist, and not just any other scientist, Sir Isaac Newton. You see, the evidence is hot air, and I'm about to prove to you that gravity exists by pulling all that down. Why I think Team Proposition carries the day is because we gave to you, the lovely audience, a lot of sweet ideas. Which ideas are we speaking of? Environmental impact, price deduction, technological advancements, and public health. Let us remember that we are not saying the government should not fund the fossil fuels. Whatever we are saying is that the government should actually prioritize finding renewable sources of energy over fossil fuels. As in, the funding will still remain for the fossil fuels, but more on the renewable energy. And this is why we live in a world full of lies, and I'm disappointed to say that some of us were taken into the reality of truth, not once, twice, but 3 times. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I rest myself.
Team Opposition, you have 1 minute to give your closing remark.
Okay, I also come bearing goodies. Even me, I have. I also come bearing goodies. Do you see this? You won't be able to afford this if you give way to this motion. How much is this? Huh? Imagine a time will come when we'll be buying this for 100 shillings. Wait, actually, as I told you before, I am prioritizing your lives in front of all these investments. We from Apostolic Carmel Girls Secondary School stand as a voice for all of you. The 16% of the people who you don't even think about most of the time. Consider. I'm asking you to join my side. I am urging you before it becomes a national crisis.
Kibet, you had a clear definition of terms, and you gave some valid examples there, the Denmark. However, you are doing a lot of reading. So you need to go slow on reading, because as I told you before, reading works against your style and presentation, mastery of content, and even your passion and conviction, which are key in the mark scheme. Then please be time conscious too, but you are a debater with a lot of potential, and now that you're in the junior team, I believe when you transition to the senior team, you're going to be a debating missile. Sir Isaac Newton, you had a good start. This 1 + 1 minus, and then you brought out the relevance of that, because I've always had an issue with speakers coming up with hook statements, and then they don't show the relevance to the motion. So that stood out in giving you a score under style and presentation. And then You also brought in a different perspective that the emphasis is not only on fossil fuels, but it's just prioritizing, so that stood out well. William, you had a good restatement of the team's argument. You came out as an articulate debater. However, I felt that you could have given more examples to build up your case, which did not come out so clearly. What was there were some general statements and all that. So if you manage to go to the next level, please work on that.
Opposers, you're saying, to combat climate change, actually the government should not prioritize investment in renewable energy. And I had issues of reliability. That was a very good point. But what was not coming out is, we are saying we have been using fossil fuels. I wanted to hear something to say. Somebody said it will take time. I wanted to hear gradual transition. We can move to it slowly. And then I wanted to hear something of the Ukraine-Russian war, for example, and how that led nations in the EU and the US, for example, to go back to fossil fuels, while the talk already had been going on around renewable fuel. I wanted to hear about economic development. What have other nations used to develop? It was fossil fuels, yeah? Only now that the climate change as a result of that overuse has affected us. I wanted to also hear things of, yes, solar is good, but what happens to the panels at the end of life? They still go back to actually pollute and contribute to climate change if they are not properly disposed.
And we must agree that juniors have really outshone themselves, and we're going to go straight ahead to the results that I have with me here. And the judges have awarded Apostolic Carmel girls with 66%. A round of applause, please. And the judges have awarded Jamhuri High School with 68%. A round of applause, please, for Jamhuri High School. And the winners of this debate is Jamhuri High School. Thank you very much. And they will be proceeding to the finals come their junior tournament for Nairobi region. We have come to the end of this debate. And until next time, it is goodbye from both of us.